The 2022 fantasy football season is sadly coming to an end. Most league championships are going to be determined by the Monday night matchup between the Joe Burrow-led Bengals taking on the Josh Allen-led Bills. So congrats if you made it to the championship, or even better, if you won yourself a title. Now for everyone else, we need to put 2022 behind us and look to the future. So let's glance forward at what my 2023 fantasy football first round will look like in early 2023. And just to preface this whole conversation, I looked at this when I was valuing players from a half PPR perspective. Now, I know most people play in either half PPR or full PPR. My rankings aren't that different, so if you do play in full PPR leagues, this list will be good for you. All right, and without further ado, my number one on my 2023 top 12 fantasy football list is Austin Ekeler. Now, Austin Ekeler is currently the RB2 in half PPR leagues, just behind Josh Jacobs. And honestly, after this huge week, that might have changed before I did my notes. But Austin Ekeler is 1 or 2. And this one is pretty easy to explain, right? Ekeler has proven to me that he can stay healthy. He doesn't get overworked like Christian McCaffrey does when he was in Carolina. Maybe it's a little different now at San Francisco. But the thing with Austin Ekeler is he's currently on pace for 200 attempts and 115 receptions on a good offense. I mean, he's on pace to catch 115 passes. That's one short of Christian McCaffrey's old record of 116. That's almost an NFL historic record. So I have Austin Ekeler, who will probably never be the most dynamic guy on the ground. But if the passes keep coming where he's going to catch over 100 passes a year, if that happens year after year, I have to take him one over Christian McCaffrey, who will be coming in as my number 2, simply because I trust that they're not going to drag him into the dirt and beat up Austin Ekeler. He's made it through 2 seasons healthy with very little injuries, where, sure, maybe Christian McCaffrey does have higher upside, could have the complete league-winning season where he's the separator, but I can't trust the guy to stay healthy. So that's why I'm going to take the health concerns away from this conversation, and I'm just going to take Austin Ekeler at number 1 overall. And like I mentioned earlier, coming in at number 2 on this list is Christian McCaffrey. Now, this one is really simple, and I'll make it quick. Christian McCaffrey is an awesome player. We know the CMC story. It's basically the same year in and year out. But now it's even better. He's on a San Francisco team that I trust way more than Carolina Panthers, and with 2 quarterbacks that I have hope for. I like Brock Purdy. I think he's been playing great, playing as the 3rd-string quarterback coming in and maybe going to lead him on a playoff charge. I think he's been playing really great. We have Trey Lance, who can come back from his broken ankle, and maybe even Jimmy Garoppolo's in the mix. So we have 3 quarterbacks that I would say I trust, that I have hope for at least. But here's the deal with Christian McCaffrey, right? If you take his 8-game sample size from the time he got traded to San Francisco, he's on pace for 1,100 rushing yards, 87 receptions, 735 receiving yards, and 14 total touchdowns, right? So what does that say? Oh yeah, he's awesome. And that's just sample size. I mean, he just had another great game where he blew it for over 100 yards rushing and had like 8 catches. So those numbers would be even higher. My only concern with Christian McCaffrey is health. CMC has had issues staying healthy and being on the field. So if I'm going to take a player like Christian McCaffrey, number 2 overall, I have to be certain of 2 things. 1, I have to believe that the guy can stay healthy. And I mean, he did prove it this season. He's been healthy for most of the year. And second off, I mean, he has to be a league winner. And that's what Christian McCaffrey is. If Christian McCaffrey plays at least 15 plus games, he's going to be the RB1 overall. On a great San Francisco team where he catches 1 million passes and is involved in the run game, Christian McCaffrey's the guy. I tried to avoid risk at the top of my draft, but when you see the next couple running backs that are about to come, tell me who you really trust. It's a very narrow list. And coming in at number 3 overall is old reliable Derrick Henry. Now, Henry is going to be one of the most interesting talking points in this 2023 offseason for a couple of reasons. So, for starters, I think this might be Henry's last hoorah as a fantasy superstar running back. The Tennessee Titans are pretty much in shambles right now. They're kind of falling apart as a team. In real life, they lost their last, I believe it's 7 straight games where they looked like they had the division locked, but Jacksonville made a big push. Ryan Tannehill's hurt. Malik Willis just got benched for Josh Dobbs, who they pulled off of the free agency. So they really don't have a future set up. But for fantasy football, does that totally matter in a redraft league? This is going to be the last ride for Tennessee in 2023. Ryan Tannehill is under contract in 2023, and that'll be his last year of the deal. I think they ride it out that one last season with Tannehill under center, and then they move it on to whoever their quarterback of the future is. And also, that's Derrick Henry's 2023 season is his last year in Tennessee also. and he'll be age 29. So I think they try to push one more time with the roster they have. They're going to run it back because they really don't have another choice. So you might be saying, why do I like him then, right? And I recognize the dude is still a superstar. He's basically been uninjured his whole career, missing less than 10 games and throughout all, almost 10 years of his career. And he gets all the work to himself, an offense that will run the ball 30 times a game if need be. If he doesn't fall off, he'll be a stud like he is every year. I mean, I just looked at his game logs, and he has rushed for 80 yards in 11 of his 15 games. You don't get that kind of consistency from a lot of running backs. So that's why I'm confident one more year from a running back I haven't seen had the fall off yet at age 29. I'm going to roll with Derrick Henry one more time. And coming in at number 4 is going to be Nick Chubb. I love the talent of Nick Chubb, but the only problem I have with Nick Chubb is his up and down nature. Chubb doesn't catch passes, so in a PPR league, he's pretty much a touchdown or bust every week guy. In 2022, Chubb either scored 15 points or finished with less than 10 in PPR leagues. I love Cleveland's offense heading into next season, right? We have the weapons with Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I would say is proven to be a solid weapon. Maybe not quite number 2, but a weapon that should be out there. Amari Cooper showed that he's still an alpha receiver. Deshaun Watson started off games here and there and is still breaking off the rust. I like that offense. And, not to mention, no Kareem Hunt. We're all expecting Kareem Hunt to go out and get a job somewhere else. So this could be a backfield where it's just Nick Chubb's. So I'm willing to bet on the talent, and I'm willing to take the up and down nature for security. We know at the end of the year, Chubb's going to push double-digit touchdowns. He's going to get a bunch of carries, and he's going to probably rush for 1,300 to 1,400 yards. Will he ever become a pass catcher? I don't know. I mean, we're in year 5, 6 of his career, and it hasn't happened yet. I'd love for it to happen because I think he can catch the ball a little bit, but, who knows? So I'm just going to stick with Nick Chubb at number 4 because I believe in his talent, and I know he's safe. Coming in at number 5 overall is going to be Saquon Barkley. The guy has shown he's healthy and still great. It's nice to see him as a top 5 option for this year. Saquon finally has a coach who knows how to use him as a bell cow running back, but also not overutilize him in every given game. My biggest concern with the New York Giants, it's not if Saquon's still talented, because I think he is. It's not the health. He proved to me this year he's healthy, and he broke big plays, and he made big touchdowns, and he got utilized the right way. The biggest concern is, who is the Giants QB next year? Could they draft somebody? Doesn't seem super likely. I mean, they're gonna make the playoffs. They just guaranteed a playoff spot. I think they're gonna bring back Daniel Jones, which doesn't make me super thrilled. And honestly, Saquon Barkley's contract's up. He could leave the Giants and play for another team. Right now, the 5 spot's a bit of a holder spot because what if he does leave? What if they don't sign Daniel Jones? What if they roll with the season with another crappy quarterback? Then maybe Saquon Barkley has some room to move up and down. There's a lot of variance here. So we'll wait and see. But for right now, if everything stays the same, let's just say Daniel Jones comes back, I think Saquon Barkley is going to be the 5th pick overall for me. Coming in at number 6 overall is going to be Jonathan Taylor. And Taylor is going to end my run of running backs. Taylor basically had a wash year. I mean, in the games he played, he was great. In 10 games where he actually started the game and played most of it, he was on pace for 1,500 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, and just under 50 catches. I know he seemed like a complete bust this year because he wasn't great. I get it. I understand it. But the guy was pretty good when he played. And you got to think about all the things he overcame this year. Injury. Got injured at least 2 or 3 times this year. His quarterbacks were washed Matt Ryan, not very good Nick Foles, rookie or second year Sam Ehlinger. Jeff Saturday became his head coach midway through the year, which seemed like a complete joke. With all these things being said, Jonathan Taylor still had a crazy good season when he played. Sure, it wasn't number 1 overall status, of course, but he's still a first-round pick for me easily next year. And if they get a good quarterback, which is the biggest, what if right now, because they can't run it back with any of the guys I just named, they're going to draft a rookie quarterback, whether it's maybe CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever it is. They're going to roll with a rookie quarterback, I would imagine, or they're going to have to bring in a veteran free agent, which could be, kind of dangerous, but it's going to be a fresh face in there. Indy's going to look a little different this year. So I'm excited for Jonathan Taylor, and I'm confident to have him at the 6th spot. So coming in at number 7, and this guy is going to kick off my wide receiver stretch here, it's Justin Jefferson. And it's hard with these guys because you're going to see the list coming up. You're really nitpicking between this next group of receivers because they're all awesome. You could really make an argument for any of them. The reason I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson at 7 is his situation's pretty stable with, Kirk Cousins under center. They're going to be a playoff team this year. And Justin Jefferson, just legitimately is just great. He might be the best receiver in the entire NFL. The guy's awesome at any level. You need him in the red zone, he can score touchdowns. Although he doesn't have, he hasn't scored a ton yet. He's at 8 right now in the current NFL season. The guy's still great. The one thing that I'm worried about with just wide receivers in general, not just specifically Justin Jefferson, is I'm worried everyone's going to overdraft him this year. Everyone's going to go, oh, dude, they're crazy good this year, man. They're awesome. They're foolproof. They don't miss. They're great. I'm going to take them over any of the other running backs I just named because I don't trust those guys. I trust the receivers. And that's okay, right? I get that. I understand where you're coming from, but let's look at it. Justin Jefferson is my number 1 receiver. And this isn't me talking crap or saying he sucks because he doesn't. The dude's awesome, right? But he isn't as foolproof as you think. None of these receivers really are. This year, Justin Jefferson was really great, right? He's at 1,700 yards right now, 8 touchdowns, well over 100 receptions. But in 5 games, he finished under 50 receiving yards in 5. But every other game was above 100 yards. One game was at 98 yards. But basically, he was either under 50, he had 5 games under 50 receiving yards where you had a dud week, or he was over 100 receiving yards and had you a monster week. So, look, don't be crazy with the receivers this year. Expect it, because I know it's going to come where someone's going to say, I'm just going to take Justin Jefferson number 3 overall. I understand the philosophy behind it and why you do it, but don't get crazy. Running backs are still really important. I love Justin Jefferson, and that's why I have him as my number 1 wide receiver. Coming in at the number 7 spot and my 2nd wide receiver overall, it's Jamar Chase. Now, this one I think is not going to be consensus. I think you're going to have guys like, spoiler alert, Tyreek Hill, maybe Stefan Diggs, maybe some people running back with Cooper Kupp. Maybe they get guys like A.J. Brown and C.D. Lamb into the mix. But I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. My biggest concern with Chase right now is just injury. He happens to miss some games. He did it this year, and he hurt me in fantasy big time, but I still love the guy's talent. I mean, when you need a big play, you get it from him, right? He was on pace this year in the games he played for 122 receptions, just under 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. It's awesome, right? No receivers bulletproof, like I said before. No one's just a guaranteed, 100 yards every game. It's not going to happen. That's Cooper Kupp, which is a miraculous season. I love Jamar Chase because I love Joe Burrow. I love the situation he plays in. That's the one quarterback I trust more than any other receiver you're going to see in this first round. He's an awesome talent, and he's just great. I just love the attitude. I love the talent of the player. Like I said, I can't say it anymore. He's great, and he's a touchdown maker. I mean, he's on pace for 12 touchdowns this year. Jamar Chase is kind of my love child. I'm going to take him 7 overall, just behind Justin Jefferson. And honestly, it was a bit of a toss-up for me because I love Joe Burrow, and I love that whole Bengals situation. Coming in is my number 9 player overall, receiver number 3. It's Tyreek Hill, and this is hard too. I mean, God, man, I love Tyreek Hill. I've been a big fan forever, and it's hard because you have to nitpick these guys. And when you nitpick them, with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill has 2 big caveats coming in his way. One, what's up with the quarterback situation? Is Tua good? Is he not good? Is he healthy? He got 2 concussions this year? Is he going to get cleared for this year? Is he going to be, back to normal next year? Is he ever going to stay healthy? Is he good? There's a lot of questions with Tua Tagovailoa. That hurts Tyreek Hill's draft stock for me. If I had a more confident quarterback, if he's playing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase's position, he'd probably be my receiver 1. I love Tyreek Hill. He's a great player. But also, he's going to be going into his 8th NFL season, age 29. I don't think he's taken a step back at all. But what happens if that happens next year? Then, there's no way this guy's going to be on pace for 1,800 yards and double-digit touchdowns like he is this year. Tyreek Hill's great. There's just, when you get this good, when you're this high with receivers, you have to nitpick. That's how you get a little spots different. That's how not everyone's ranked number 7 with Justin Jefferson. You have to nitpick. I love Tyreek Hill. I have him as my number 9, 3rd receiver overall. Coming in at my number 10 spot is going to be Stefan Diggs. And Diggs is another one where the guy is just uber talented, but you have to nitpick. You have to, find these little itty-bitty things that are differentiators between all these other receivers because they're all so talented. And honestly, Stefan Diggs, he's a bit of hit or miss. He has that in his DNA. He has games, 122 yards, 148. But then 74, 62, which aren't bad, but then 102, 148, 108, 93, 128. And then he rattles off to end your season in your fantasy playoffs, which you probably didn't even make it far because he kind of screwed you, of 3 for 37, 5 for 60, 2 for 26. Like, those aren't good games. I need my alpha receiver to ball out in those situations, and he didn't. He had a bad back half of the season with, he might have bailed you out with some touchdowns, but it wasn't great. That's my only nitpick. He has Josh Allen as his quarterback. He's in a good offense. He's going to finish with 1,400 yards and double-digit touchdowns. I mean, he's great, but you have to nitpick. Sometimes, Stefan Diggs, he's up and down. And not to mention, he's another one, kind of like Tyreek Hill. He's going into his age 30 season. Does the drop-off happen? Little concerns. You have to be concerned. You have to nitpick, like I say. You have to nitpick. That's why I have Stefan Diggs as my number 10 player overall. And coming in at number 11, this will be the last receiver I have on the list. It's Cooper Kupp. And what a drop-off we have, right? From this guy being historically one of the best receiver seasons we've ever seen, we've ever had in the entire NFL. Now he's my wide receiver 5. It's hard to imagine at this point. But you have to nitpick once again. The guy was awesome last year. Even when the offense was falling apart, Matthew Stafford didn't seem as good, and they had no run game, the offensive line, Kupp still put up big numbers. He's not coming off major injury, which is good to hear. It was, I believe, a rolled ankle, and they just decided to keep him out for the rest of the year because why bring him back? But now we have to look forward. Is Matthew Stafford going to be back to what he was in the Super Bowl year? I don't know, and that's a lot of question marks. And once again, age plays a concern here. Coming off another, back-to-back kind of major workload seasons where you got literally, 150 receptions and 75 receptions in a short amount of time, in 2-year span. That's a lot of work. And he's heading into his age 30 season. I like Cooper Kupp. I think he's a great player. But what happens if Matthew Stafford isn't good next year and they keep Baker Mayfield as the backup and Baker comes in? I don't trust Baker Mayfield. I don't know if I trust Matt Stafford right now. That's why I have Cooper Kupp low. But I recognize, what if he's just awesome no matter what the situation is? What if they just run the offense through him again and he gets one more, huge, almost 130, 140 reception seasons again, and he goes for 1,500, 16 plus, 100 yards seasons, and he's just great. That can happen. It's on the table. But you have to take into consideration, maybe Matthew Stafford is over the hill and he's just running out of time and good quarterback situations there for the Rams. And that's why I have Cooper Kupp as number 11 overall. Coming in at the number 12 spot is going to be Tony Pollard. Now, Pollard is one that you probably didn't expect to be on this list, and I understand why. But you have to take into consideration, I don't think Zeke Elliott is going to be there. Or, on the contrary, I think Tony Pollard could leave and get a big deal somewhere else if Dallas doesn't sign him, because he is a free agent. But let's look at Pollard's season. When he finally started to get the starts and getting major carries, you could say starting in week 8 against Chicago, from then on, the rest of the year, the guy was on pace for 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 60 receptions, 565 receiving yards, another 6 touchdowns through the air. That's 1,800 yards total. The guy is electric. He's a beast, man. He's great. I love Tony Pollard. I hope he stays with Dallas, and I hope they move on to another lame power back and move away from Zeke because they can get out of his contract this year. Tony Pollard is a great back. The main reason why I have Pollard at 12 when there's a lot of other receiver candidates that I could have put up there like Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb. There's not a lot of running backs after this point that I want to go back to anymore. I'm kind of done with having Dalvin Cook as one of these top guys. I can't trust DeAndre Swift anymore. Joe Mixon. I don't know about Aaron Jones. I can't have those guys. Alvin Kamara. I can't have these guys in my first round. So I'm going to start fresh with some new talent in Tony Pollard, who I think is a really great player, and I have him in my first round for that reason specifically. Quickly, I'll talk about some honorable mentions, some guys that I almost put on the list. It was close. It's going to be the group of trying to choose between Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. A lot of these guys, Devontae Adams, I don't know about the quarterback situation or if he's even on Vegas next year, and he's going to be 31. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, awesome year. But I've seen the kind of one-year wonder kind of quarterback that kind of put it all together for this, great run at a playoffs, and I've seen it before, and I've seen it come back to earth and crash and burn. I've seen it. So I'd rather see Jalen Hurts one more time before I make, A.J. Brown a first-rounder. And CeeDee Lamb's just a great receiver. he's close. He's very like it's nitpicking. It really is nitpicking. CeeDee Lamb's a good guy. He's a good receiver. And then Travis Kelce was probably the only other guy I really considered to be a first rounder, just because you get that positional difference, you get that difference maker, you get the number one tight end pretty much locked in if he stays healthy. But he's going to be 34. So, I mean, it's got to come sooner or later. There's been no tight ends that have been as amazing as he has at his age. He's an anomaly. So maybe he keeps it up, but maybe this is the year he falls off. And that was my early 2023 top 12 fantasy football list. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below. There'll be plenty of content coming this offseason. I know we're at the end and you want to take your mind off of it, but stay tuned and subscribe. So that way, when it comes springtime and you're ready to get back into it, I'll be here waiting for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.